The Specna Arms Edge 2.0, their top of the line M4. How does it fare? Let's find out.
Go, go, go! Hit!
Now, full disclosure, I did contact Specna Arms and ask if I could review one of their airsoft guns. They were extremely kind and sent over two, a Flex model and this, their Edge 2.0, their top of the line model. Now, if you guys watch my reviews regularly, you know that I tell it as it is. Even if a company sends me an airsoft gun to review, I still am straightforward and honest about any issues, things I like, the whole shebang. It is as the airsoft gun is. The gun comes with two mid-capacity magazines. These hold about 125 rounds apiece, and they fed pretty well during my testing. A CQB spring that you can pretty quickly install in the airsoft gun to use indoors. A Deans to Tamiya adapter. The gun does come with Deans pre-installed for the battery connector, so this is nice to have if you're still stuck in the dark ages of Tamiya. A small, quick, and easy programming card for the Gate Aster, so you can quickly change the programming and fire mode on it. A couple of sheets with a bunch of QR codes on them for their other products, and a QR code sheet for the manual for this airsoft gun. And lastly, everyone's favorite thing, a big sheet of stickers. This particular model of the Specna Edge 2.0 is the E14. It is their 12-inch m-lok rail with tan furniture. Now you can get this in black as well, and there are a ton of other barrel lengths and different rails and models and stocks you can get on the Edge 2.0, so you're bound to find an option you're going to like. We'll start with the stock as always and move our way forward. The stock is your pretty plain crane stock. Comes on so many airsoft guns, but it just works well, and I do like these quite a bit. The battery storage, of course, is in the stock, so if you take your rubberized end plate off and this little plastic spacer here, you've got access to your battery compartment. This will fit in most batteries that you're going to want to throw at it. Your 3-cell LiPos, your 2-cell 7.4s, 9.6 volt nunchucks. Most things will fit pretty well in here, and there's quite a bit of room. This gun has a ton of options for attaching slings. You've got your quick detach points on the stock, your loops on the back of the receiver here, and quick detach points on the left and right of the front and the back of the rail. You can do just about anything you want sling-wise on this gun. Something I feel this gun does extremely well is the quick change spring system. So I'm going to take off the stock, which is really quick to do. Then by loosening the castle nut on the stock, you can rotate the buffered tube clockwise and then pull the entire buffered tube right off the back of your gun. From there, you've got access to the entire spring guide. Simply unscrew it counterclockwise. It's got quite a lot of threading, so it takes a moment. After that, you can pull out your spring and spring guide and very quickly swap to a higher or lower speed spring. The receiver itself does have Rock River Arms trades. They are licensed, which is a big bonus for this gun. Adding licensed trades, I think, is always a great idea. The receiver itself does have Specna's nano coating. It's supposed to be weather and scratch resistant. I think time will tell on that one. The right side does have a holographic sticker for the serial number, as well as a sticker for a QR code and another serial number. The pistol grip on this is also very comfortable. It is a more upright angle than your standard A2 or similar pistol grip. The charging handle does have an extended lever. I like to one-hand my charging lever. This makes it easier to do so for me. Pulling the charging lever too does reveal your hop up dial. It is a rotary style hop up, down for more hop, up for less hop. There is no bolt catch or anything like that. I'm fine with that. I have spent all my life holding the charging handle back, so those bolt catches are something new. They're great, but I don't mind not having one. The sights that come on this gun are really low profile, and I rather like them. They're the same ones that come on the Flex, their entry-level model, so it's really nice to see their top of the line and their entry-level have the same sights. The sights are not spring-loaded. They are simply a manual flip up, flip down. The rear sight does have two peep apertures, one for long range and one for close range shooting. The rear sight is adjustable for windage only, and the front sight, also flip up and down, is adjustable only for elevation. The rail on this particular gun is a 12-inch m-lok, and it's the reason I picked this specific model to review. I love the rail. It is really, really nice. It has m-lok slots along the bottom and the sides, as well as, before mentioned, the QD points on front and back. Top has the long monolithic rail from the receiver all the way to the end of the rail system. The gun does actually come with an angled grip pre-installed. It is aluminum. It's rather nice. I like it all right, but I'm just not the biggest fan of angled grips. I liked them for a while, and I just kind of got over them. I think I'm probably going to take it off and run just the rail system. The end of the gun does have an orange plastic flash hider on it for all you guys that really like those for some strange reason. It is pinned in place, so just a heads up.
Moving to this building.
Your pistol grip is held in place by 4 screws instead of the traditional 2. And instead of a motor plate that screws in place on the grip, this slides in place and these 2 tabs are depressed and slide into these 2 slots. So it is a totally screwless motor plate. The motor is advertised as a torque motor, but feels kind of more like a balanced motor. It feels like it has a reasonable amount of torque to it, but rate of fire feels like it's not quite a speed motor, not quite a super high torque motor, but sits right in between, so I'd call it more of a balanced motor. It does also have an O-type pinion. The rotary style hop up here is the same model you'll get in most, if not all, the other Specna M4 lineup. What I'm really pleased to see is they have included a flat hop bucking and nub in this hop-up chamber. The bucking is flat inside and has no mound like the traditional Marui style, so it can be a little bit more accurate and have better range potentially. The nub is a little bit taller than most flat hop nub I've seen, so you should be able to use a little bit heavier BBs with it. The barrel is made of brass, which is something you see very rarely in airsoft guns nowadays. It is a 6.03 barrel, so a little bit tighter bore. The ESA 2 quick change spring system required me to remove the spring guide and this entire component from the body to remove the gearbox. So the spring guide itself is steel and has bearings, which is fantastic. The included spring is their field spring, and you also get an M90 spring as well. It's a little bit shorter, just by a hair, and a bit softer to get you the indoor CQB FPS. A bonus for me is that the gearbox shell itself has radiusing ports on the front of the cylinder window. They are, however, not present on the back of the cylinder window. A quick note about the gearbox shell itself: it does have a slat here, so you can take a small screwdriver or pin or Allen key, whatever you have you, and decycle the gearbox by flicking the anti-reversal latch. The gearbox shell itself is 8mm and uses 8mm bearings. And these look to be pretty solid. They look to be fairly well caged. Something I will note is that the lubrication, or the blue grease in here, looks to have been painted on pretty quickly. It didn't quite get to all the components I would have liked it to as well as I would have liked it to, but it is present nonetheless. The tappet plate is the same model, I believe, on the Flex. It's not super stiff and not super flexible. It kind of sits right in between and is pretty average. It does have cutouts in the front that you'd typically observe that matches a gearbox reinforcement, but the gearbox in this one does not match those, so it's interesting that these are present. The nozzle is aluminum and has a single O-ring inside. Unfortunately, the nozzle doesn't seem to fit super well to the cylinder head as far as the seal. The piston, it has a steel tooth rack on it, so the last tooth is removed, which is great. Sometimes on high rates of fire or just even general use, that second last tooth can get chewed out, so getting rid of that is a plus for me. Speed cuts on the sides. Piston head is ported and has bearings behind it, which is great. And my hands are slowly turning blue from all the grease here. The cylinder is non-ported aluminum, which is nice. It'll actually give you a little bit better performance with heavier BBs on an M4 link barrel like this has. The cylinder head is aluminum, same as the cylinder itself. It has a rubber damper on the back and has 2 O-rings. Unfortunately, the cylinder head doesn't seal super well inside the cylinder. It's probably sufficient as they are static components, but it does rock pretty well, so I might see if I can find some different O-rings to fit around the cylinder head. The compression on this gun, I'd say, is about average, if not a hair below, unfortunately. With all the upgraded parts, I'm surprised it's not a good bit better. The gears are steel, look to be pretty decent, about the same, if not the same gears as other models in the Specna lineup, and have a sector delayer chip, which is great for those high rates of fire and it can help with feeding. Let's check the shimming on this gearbox. So I'm holding the gearbox pretty tight, spinning it around. It sounds pretty good. Looks like the sector is pretty close. It could probably use a really like hair-like shim in there to keep it a bit more in place. Same with the spur gear. It's a little more loose than I like, but is still, I think, within tolerance of a stock airsoft gun. And the bevel gear is about the same as the spur gear. Could probably use another really minor shim in there to keep it in place a little bit better. I'm going to give the shimming quality on this gun a B-. It could definitely use a little bit of refinement. What I think one of my favorite features about this particular airsoft gun is the included and pre-installed Gate Aster. This is actually a pretty solid Mosfet to drop in here. Some other models of airsoft guns out there have less quality, less expensive Mosfets that tend to not do as well or don't work very well or don't last very long. But thankfully a Gate Aster is a great option to drop in here. It also comes with the solar trigger as well, so you get a much better trigger than the stock one out of the box and much more accurate. Something I highly recommend doing on this particular gun, because it has a Gate Aster, is picking up a Blue Link or another method of hooking the Mosfet up to your phone, downloading the Gate GCS app, and updating your firmware. All right, I have my Blue Link hooked up to the Specna Edge 2.0 here. Let's go ahead and connect it. We can see that the app identifies the gun as a Specna Arms Edge, which is really neat. It does offer to upgrade the Aster here, so it does come with a basic programming on the Aster. Our selector settings are pretty straightforward. Right now, I usually leave it to safe, semi, and full auto. This is kind of my normal go-to. You can do safe semi-binary, safe semi-semi, and safe semi-burst. I'll put it on safe semi-burst here, and we can go to how many BBs we want to select. So we can do mode full, or interruptible, so if you let off the trigger, it'll stop. And go back here. You can do 3 BBs or 5 BBs. It doesn't have much range there, so just 2 options. When I first received the airsoft gun, I plugged it into the Blue Link to see what the calibration and settings were, and I found that about 100 BBs had been fired through the airsoft gun before I had received it. One really nice thing I do enjoy about the Aster is all the information and telemetry it can give you. So much info, probably stuff you'll never really need to know or actually care about. But if it's something you ever want to find out, it's here. I'm getting about 18 rounds a second, which is about what the chrono showed on an 11.1 volt battery.
Hit! Good kill.
To test out this airsoft gun, I took it out to Nighthawk Airsoft in Ford, Washington. It's my local field, semi-local, it's still over an hour away. Great field, I highly recommend playing there. It's one of my favorite places to airsoft, so go check it out. It was a very hot day. It was over 100 degrees, just a little over, and I'll tell you, this gun had some issues out there, unfortunately. First and foremost, it kept giving me error codes. So I took my Blue Link and hooked it up to the Aster, checked on my phone, and the app was saying that I was getting undervoltage and overvoltage issues from the battery. It's a little unusual. I never had that happen before in an Aster or any other Mosfet. In 100+ degree weather, running at 11.1 volt, your gun can get really hot, and it can cause some weird issues. I also don't have the newest batteries in the world for testing, so I'm gonna chalk it up to just being really, really hot out. The second issue I had was with the accuracy and groupings. The range was fantastic. I was getting well over 180 feet with .32s, my standard go-to BBs. But unfortunately, the groupings were rather wide. They were even bigger than a person at the max range, which is a little disappointing. The BBs I was using I know to be reliable and are consistent in other airsoft guns. So I'm probably going to say it was the bucking, unfortunately. Probably needs a new bucking. I've used a lot of flat hops. They're always very accurate and very consistent. So I may just grab a new one and throw it in here. One last minor gripe. It's really, really rattly. The stock wobbles, the bolt catch flips around quite a bit, and the magazine has a lot of play. So it's a noisy gun, which I'm not sure most people are going to care about. You may want to tape the bolt catch down and put some electrical tape on the buffer tube, and same with the magazine. Aside from those things, I was actually really happy with the gun. It performed still pretty well, despite the fact the groupings were a little large. The range was very impressive. With .32 gram BBs, I could reach out to 180 feet, give or take. The weight of the airsoft gun's pretty good. It's balanced. It's fairly light for a metal airsoft gun. It's actually a very similar weight to a lot of plastic guns I've used, so that's a big bonus for me. One thing that actually surprised me, I was a little taken aback was the gas tube and gas block are not present. Even on their highest end model, they still don't have those. And I checked, the rail can definitely accommodate those, as can the receiver. So I may just grab some spares and throw them in there for aesthetic purposes. On paper, the Specna Edge 2.0 is fantastic. You've got really great internals, a solid Mosfet out of the box, really nice receiver and rail, and it looks the part, absolutely. I think in practice, it could use a little bit of refinement. Some of the internal parts didn't work super well together. The air seal could be a bit better, as well as the shimming too. On a $400 airsoft gun, just a couple more shims and it would have been really, really good. The externals though, I think are fantastic. The really nice receiver, you got your trademarks, the rail system, I also didn't mention this, is indexed to the receiver, so it's not going to twist around, which I think is really fantastic. The Specna Edge 2.0 has the potential to be a really solid hard hitter out of the box, but I think it needs a little bit of refinement and a little bit of maturing until it quite hits that point of excellence. So I'm going to give this gun a 7 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching, and a big thank you to Specna for sending out their Edge 2.0 for me to review. Thanks, and I'll see you guys in the next review.